about the rotary compressors like Roots blower compressor, vane blower compressor, then of axial flow compressor and centrifugal compressor. So commercially, centrifugal compressors are extensively used, whereas for other compressors are used for getting of moderate pressures less than 10 bar pressure only. Axial compressors we have used especially for aircraft to get the power as well as thrust power or propulsive power, and also the power required to get the cooling effect also we have used there. So that is what about we have, and I have shared the objective questions also from previous year's question papers, like 5 6 question papers I have answered and circulated also last class. So in this class we will start with the fresh unit named as systems, various what is that performance improvement systems in SI engines and CI engines or IC engines in general. So systems means, so sometimes cooling systems are required, sometimes uh, lubrication systems are required, sometimes injection systems are required, sometimes ignition systems are required. These are all. So here, to boost up the natural combustion process, additionally these are also required. So why individually these systems are required, how many types of systems are there, what is the working principle of each of these systems, hereafter totally theory we are going to discuss about. So instead of discussing many things in a single day, so very slowly we go. In today's class, I am talking about the cooling systems used in IC engines. So first of all, why cooling is required in IC engines? First of all, why cooling is required in IC engines, that we are going to discuss about. So practically we have seen that during the cycle of operation, maximum up to a temperature of 2700, 2750 also we are getting. So during the cycle of cycle of operation, so during the combustion process of the cycle, so we are getting the temperatures even up to 2750 at the end of combustion. So especially in the case of compression ignition engines, even higher temperatures also we are getting compared to SI engines. So when we are getting such a high temperatures, and the time given for dissipation of heat is very very little, if not properly dissipated to cooling medium or cold medium, the temperature goes up within the engine cylinder, and the piston will get expanded over a period of time. So since small clearance is provided between the piston and the engine cylinder walls, so upon getting of expansion, so that small gap will be totally covered, and the engine parts gets seized. The movement of the engine parts gets seized there, and that is how the engine is going to get damaged also. So properly, if the heat is not dissipated, so at the temperatures that are developed uh, during the power stroke of the IC engine, if not properly dissipated and down the temperatures, so in the normal working levels, or if they are not reduced to the working levels, so the temperature keeps on increasing, which makes the cylindrical parts to get expanded, and since the small gap provided between the piston and the cylinder walls gets what is that completely closed, and the engine parts gets seized, and the engine gets damaged also ultimately. So that is why, so the for proper removal of the heat from the uh, engine, or from nothing but the combustion chamber. Engine is nothing but the combustion chamber where continuously, so upon burning of the fuel, so high temperatures are released. If not properly reduced those temperatures, the engine parts gets expanded over a period of time, they get jammed. So one between the parts, no space will be there, and the engine functioning get affected. Ultimately, the engine get damaged also. That is why cooling is required to be provided. So in the case of IC engines, not only that is the reason, since so the engine is made up of by, so by assembling of n numbers of individual components like crank, connecting rod, so then piston, and piston and connecting rod are connected through some kind of pin called as gudgeon pin, crank pin, crankshaft. So like this, with many number of individual components, the total IC engine is formed of. As there is a continuous contact between the parts, you also need to provide the lubrication. So while we are providing the lubrication, when high temperatures are maintained, lubrication also gets evaporated at high temperature, and the total lubricant may get evaporated, and proper lubrication cannot be provided there between the mating parts. So that is why, so when high temperatures are not reduced, even the lubrication effect also will get affected. There is also one more reason. Suppose if the temperatures are not reduced, so to the normal working conditions, so with the continuous increase of temperatures, there is a chance of increasing or developing the thermal stresses also within the engine parts. So when thermal stresses are crossing the allowable limits, so the damage of the engine parts will take place. So that is why, so keeping all these negative effects of the rising of temperature within the engine parts, so we came to know that IC engine cooling is required here. IC engine cooling is required. Why? Because of, if not reduced the temperature, engine parts may get expanded, and engine parts may get expanded over a period of time. The parts may get squeezed also. The parts may get seized also, and by what is that, by closing all the parts, engine parts may get seized, and the engine functioning will get affected. That is why one need is to reduce the temperature here to minimize the expansion between the parts. And one more thing is, lubrication effect should not be affected, means that means lubricant initially will be supplied in the form of liquid state. At high temperature there is a scope of converting into vapor phase, and availability of lubricant will be minimized. So that is why, so there is also affecting the lubrication process between the mating parts. So in order to what is that, overcome the negative effects of the high temperatures, we need to provide the cooling in the IC engines. So that is why. Also there is a problem of developing high thermal stresses also, as thermal stress equal to E alpha delta T. When temperature is more, means temperature is more, the thermal stress also developed is more. So as it is a function of temperature difference. When maximum temperature difference is there, so maximum thermal stress will develop, which may damage the engine parts also. That is why, to keep keep the operating stresses within the allowable limits, so we need to provide proper cooling effect for the engine parts. How many ways we can cool the engine parts? So basically, the available cooling systems are classified as air cooling systems and water cooling systems. Where do you use air cooling systems? When engine size is very smaller, or when engine has very small compression ratio, like less than 6 or less than 8 maximum. So when engine has lesser compression ratios, and when engine size is smaller, especially in the case of scooters and uh, what is that, bikes, whatever it may be, scooters. So here where the engine ratio, all are of for petrol engines, basically for petrol engines compression ratios are within the range of 8 only. So there, in such of a smaller engines, instead of providing water cooling to be provided means, so other way, so to store the water, separate setup is also required. So that cannot be accommodated when the engine size is smaller. So that is why, alternatively, the outer surface of the cylinder is provided with some extra metal attachments called as fins. We call them as fins. So the extra metal attachments like this. So actually this is the engine cylinder. This is what is the engine cylinder. So suppose from this of the available engine cylinder, to enhance the heat transfer, extra metal strips made up by the same cylindrical material, by whatever material the cylinder is made up of, by the same material, extra strips are also attached. So what is the advantage of providing these extra strips means? So here, if the strip is not there, hardly from cylindrical surface only, by having outside air in contact, the heat will be transferred. By adding extra surfaces, area is going to be increased. More area by having contact outside areas, more heat will be dissipated. That is how we have. That is Mr. Nagaprasad. Please keep your speaker in mute. So that is what. If no fins are provided, hardly the outer surface of the cylinder is exposed to this of the atmospheric air. The high temperatures that are developed maybe of 1700 to 2000 1400, 1700 to 2400. So these temperatures, to reduce the temperatures to an operating levels, so like uh, 500 or 600 degrees centigrade. So there must be continuous dissipation of heat to the ambient. How we can dissipate to ambient means, so if fins are not provided, the available area is only this and only this, only this and this. These areas, by having contact with outside air, so by having contact with outside air, the air will take away the heat. The air will take away the heat. So in order to increase the heat transfer rate to the already available existing surface area, so we are also adding extra metal strips. These metal strips are also made up of by same cylindrical material, so that the total area available is going to be increased. With more area by having contact by the air, more heat will be taken away. That is the advantage of providing air cooling. So where do you use? So here, especially, so for small size engines where compression ratios are below 8, so in such of the engines, especially like scooters and bikes only, we use, so providing of air cooling, so for dissipation of heat from the cylinder. That is what is. So applications are scooters and motorcycles, so where we are using the air cooling. What are the advantages of providing air cooling is, the design is simpler. The design is simpler. No extra components like radiator or a separate pump and other piping connections. No other things are available. So only extra strips are simply attached to the cylindrical surface. Then the design is considered to be so simple. So the strips are simply welded to the cylindrical surface. The design is so simple. There is no danger of coolant leakage. So since air is the direct contact it is maintaining on the outer surface of the cylinder, so no leakage of the coolant problems will be there. So this is no leakage problems are there. Engine is free from the freezing problem. Suppose if you are using water as a coolant for circulation of heat from the engine cylinder, so during a very cold seasons, so in some areas, especially where the temperatures are below 0 degrees centigrade, upon continuous circulation of water, there is a chance of getting freezed. Such problems are not there when you go for using air cooling also. So this is another advantage we can see with the use of air cooling. Then is of the weight of the engine, the weight of the air-cooled engine, to get unit brake power. So to get unit brake power, the weight of the air-cooled engine is lesser than that of the weight of the water-cooled engine to get the same 1 unit of brake power. So when our requirement is to get 1 unit of brake power, both separately from air-cooled engine and the water-cooled engine, the weight of the air-cooled engine is smaller than the weight of the water-cooled engine. Why the weight of the water-cooled engine is higher means, so separate setup is required to storage the water and also to circulate the water. Pump like additional devices are also required. So by combining of all, the total weight of the engine is going to be increased. So that is why the weight of the water-cooled engines are always higher than that the weight of the air-cooled engines. So these are all the advantages we can see with the air-cooled engines. The disadvantage, suppose when the engine is moving at a speed of 80 km per second or 80 kilometers per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, at the same 80 kilometers per hour, air will enter onto the fin surfaces, which creates the noise between the fins, This is one problem uh, with the use of air cooling systems. So between the fins, when air is entering at the same speed of the what is that scooter or bike, so then which creates the noise. So non-uniform cooling. Why? Because so differently the air comes in contact with the fin surfaces. Therefore, diff- uh, with non-uniform conditions, the cooling is taken place from the cylindrical surface. So uniformly, so the heat will not be rejected from the surface of the engine cylinder. Differently from the locations of engine cylinder, the heat will be dissipated when we are using the air-cooled systems. Output is lesser than that of a liquid-cooled engine. Since we are saying that air-cooled systems are most suitable to be used for low compression ratio engines, So and the low compression ratio is lesser means, so then the power developed also will be lesser. So therefore, so only air cooling systems are possible to be used for low power developing systems, cannot be used in the case of high power developing systems. So one more disadvantage is when we are using air-cooled systems, these are applicable only for smaller compression ratio engines only. Smaller compression ratio. So air-cooled systems cannot be adapted for high compression ratio systems more than 8. That is. So these are all the advantages and disadvantages with air-cooled systems. So what we have discussed as of now, why cooling is required to be provided in IC engines. So when large temperatures are developed during combustion of the fuel, if not properly dissipated, what will happen? If not
పట్టించుకునే వాళ్ళకి ఈ శిక్ష.
if
నువ్వే
not,
పాకమంటే ఇది అందరికీ తెలిసినటువంటి శిక్షే. నూనె బాటిలో పడేసి వేయించటం.
if not properly dissipated,
వేయించడం ఇది ఒక విధమైన స్లో డెత్. రక్తాన్ని పీల్చే పురుగుల్ని వదిలి కరిపించటం.
if not properly dissipated to ambient, so due to continuous rise of temperature within the engine parts may get
నువ్వు
expanded.
చెప్పేది అంతకు మించి మనం ఇది చేయగలమా?
Engine parts may get expanded, and they come to
ఇవన్నీ ఏంటి? ఇవన్నీ పాపం చేసిన వాళ్ళకి నరకంలో విధించే శిక్షణ యొక్క పేర్లు.
Mr. Nagaprasad. You are asked to keep your speaker in mute.
ఆడు పేరు
I told you to keep the speaker in mute. Huh? Please understand, man. So that is what we have seen. So why the temperatures have to be reduced in engine parts means, so if properly not dissipated the heat means due to continuous rise of temperature, the parts may get expanded, and a interference fit is going to be developed between the parts, and over a period of time the total engine parts may get seized off, and the engine is going to be damaged. And one more also, there is a chance of the lubricant to get vaporized, and no lubricant will be available, so to get the lubrication effects between the mating parts. And also there is a chance of developing high thermal stresses when temperature keeps on increasing. So to minimize these effects, there is a necessity of providing continuous cooling effects in IC engines. How many ways we can do? So two ways. The first way is air cooling, and another way is all conventional vehicles instead of air cooling, so we try to provide so water cooling systems to minimize the temperatures from the engine cylinders. So that is what is. So next, when it comes to the water cooling, how many ways we can provide the water cooling systems? Thermosiphon systems, forced or pump cooling systems, cooling with thermostatic regulator, evaporative cooling. One after the other we will see. So thermosiphon cooling is a very natural kind of system. So due to temperature difference between two levels of the water. So when temperature levels are created between two levels of water, so then so the net density difference is created. When there is a temperature difference between two levels of the water, so at the two levels there is the density difference created. This density difference will make the water to circulate on its own. The density difference created at two different levels of water, so makes the density difference to create. So it is nothing but development of buoyancy forces also we call it as. When buoyancy forces are developed, so between two levels of water, naturally the water circulation taken place without the help of any external pump. Without the help of any external pump. So this is what, where do we come across the principle of thermosiphon to be applied is, so most of us, so where we are keeping the solar water heaters at our rooftops, what they will do, water will be pumped into that of the solar collector. So water passing through the tubes provided inside of the collector. So upon receiving of the heat, the temperature rises for water. Then when temperature rises, water becomes hotter and the density will come down. So with the lesser density, water will be taken to the upward side, and at upward side or at higher elevation level there is a storage tank provided. So here there is a storage tank provided, like suppose, so there are the pipes like this. There are the pipes, water pipes, and where the pipes are provided inside of this collector, inside of the collector, solar collector. So here what is happening? See, water is allowed to flow through these of the pipes. The pipes are made to be traversed, made to be traveled through the solar collector. So upon receiving of the heat by this of the collector, upon receiving of the heat by this of the collector, in turn the heat will be added to the water flowing inside of the tubes located below this of the collector. Then the temperature will rise up. So then when temperature increases, the density of the water, so density here is more, the density of water at this level is more, whereas density here is lesser. The density here is lesser, with lesser density, so that continuously rises to the top and will be stored in a storage tank on our requirement only. So by opening the valves that are connected to the pipes of the storage tanks, the hot water will be uh, supplied to the required locations. So this is how the thermosiphon principle is worked out. Thermosiphon principle means by creation of density difference between two levels of water, naturally the water circulation is created. Naturally the water circulation is created. Same I am trying to explain also. You can see this. Water becomes lighter. Water becomes lighter on heating. That means temperature increases and uh, density will decrease and rises to the top in the radiator. If you see this diagram, if you see this diagram, these are the engine cylinders. So four cylinders are there, and around these of the cylinders, water jackets are provided. Through the jackets only, we are circulating. First, we are allowing the cold water to enter into this of the cylinder jackets. So then, after the heat is received by this of the cold water, that will increase the temperature. By increasing the temperature, the hot water density will come down. By becoming lighter, by decreasing the density, naturally it will rise up, and from the top of the radiator again it is allowed to flow down due to gravity effects. Again, in the process of flowing down via this of the radiator, there also will be fan is, so that is blowing the air over this of the radiator tubes, so taking away the heat, taking away the heat. So so this is what is naturally is happening. Cold water is simply cold water at atmospheric conditions. It is allowed to be circulated throughout these of the jackets, engine jackets. That means jacket means the jacket is provided uh, around of the cylinder, around of the cylinder. When you see, these are all the cylinders, these are all the cylinders. So surrounding the cylinders, the jackets are provided, water jackets are provided. Through those jackets, water is circulated on receiving the heat, so that cold water becomes hotter. So hot water, by increasing the temperature, the density will come down. So the density of water here is more, the density of water here is more, the density of water here is lesser, the density of water here is lesser. So due to density difference that is created here to here, natural circulation of water flow takes place, but that will happen at a very slow manner. So the circulation of water is very slow. That depends on the net temperature net temperature difference maintained. So if the smaller the temperature gap, so smaller will be the buoyancy force that is established. So for circulation of water. So that is what is due to temperature difference, the net density difference is created. The net density difference will cause the buoyancy force to develop. This buoyancy force will make the water circulation to take place naturally. This is how the circulation will take place. This is how the circulation will take place. And how do you eliminate the heat? How do you eliminate the heat from this of the hot water means? So there is a fan which is driven by again the engine crankshaft only. A part of the power developed is utilized in driving the fan also. When fan is on, air will be sucked from atmosphere, and that is allowed to blow over this across this of the radiator tubes. So then the tubes are allowed to flow with the hot water in the downward direction. Due to gravity effect, automatically this flows in the downward direction, and air is passing across the top of the tubes. Then the air will take away the heat from the radiator tubes. By the time it comes down, cold water is available, cold water, and whereas at the top level, hot water is available. Hot water is available at the top. Hot water is available at the top of the radiator. By the time it comes down, so the air that is blown across those of the tubes, where the tubes are permitted to flow hot water at upper side, by the time they come down, so it will be totally converted to cold water. Again, this is ready to be circulated in the next cycle of operation. This is how, so based on the principle of thermosiphon. Thermosiphon means creation of fluid momentum due to density difference. Creation of fluid momentum due to density difference. So due to density difference is created. So between these of the hot fluid as well as the cold fluid, automatically the natural way the circulation is taken place. This is what there are some limitations. Water becomes lighter on heating and rises to the top of the radiator. And rises to the top of the radiator. You see here, after receiving the heat from engine jackets, so then the hot water is generated that goes up by decreasing the density. That is what is naturally that goes up. Naturally that goes up. No separate pump is required. Again, water gets cooled in the radiator. So by rejecting the heat, see here, when hot water is flowing down, the air that is circulated or blown perpendicular to that of the radiator will take away the heat, and the temperature will come down by the time the water is uh, collected at the bottom of the radiator. Now this is uh, sufficient enough to be circulated again in the next cycle of operation. So that is what is the case. Again, water gets cooled in the radiator and circulated into the engine jacket. To have better water circulation, the radiator should be at a higher level than the cylindrical jacket. See here, the level of this cylindrical jacket should be at bottom level than that of the height of this radiator. If the level of the water jackets and the level of the radiators are at the same level, so there is no rise of water to the top and to flow down. So if this is not happening, so that means this part of the water displacement is going to be minimized. Suppose if water straightway is allowed, so from this point and towards the downward direction, only for a smaller distance, water is exposed to a cold air, and the amount of heat rejected will be smaller. So that is why, so the top of the radiator should be at higher elevation than that of, so the engine jacket level. This is what is engine jacket level. This is what is the location where we are supplying the water, hot water into this of the radiator. These two must be some elevation. There must be some net gap must be there between this point and this point in order to get the required temperature gap. In order to get the required temperature gap, these two should not be at the same level. This and this should not be at the same level. This and this should not be at the same level. This and this should not be at the same level. This should be at one level, and radiator level should be at a different level. Always radiator level should be at higher level. So automatically the the lighter density of water by increasing the temperature goes up and will enter from the top of the radiator. That is how the heat will be rejected. So based on the thermosiphon principle, that is what is the case. What are the advantages? So system is simple compared to other types of water cooling systems. The system is simple. Why? Because no separate pump is there, no thermostat is there, and all other additional accessories also not there. That is why the system is so simple. We are saying cooling water is circulated naturally or automatically due to density difference. Due to density difference, so the cold water circulation is naturally takes place. What are the limitations that we have observed with this kind of system? Inability to meet the requirement of large flow rate of water. Since due to thermosiphon principle, the water circulation created is very slow. The circulation of water is very slow. When we are expecting larger quantity of flow rates means, so thermosiphon water cooling systems cannot be used there. When our requirement is to circulate more quantity of flow, so large quantity of flow means we don't go for using thermosiphon systems. Only to circulate smaller quantity of flow rates only, we go for using thermosiphon systems. And also the system requires the radiator to be above the engine or what, engine or cylindrical jacket. Above the cylindrical level, the radiator level should be lying. So the radiator level should be at higher elevation than the engine level, so that only, so through a larger gap water flows and maximum heat will be taken away. That is what is the principle of thermosiphon. When it comes to very uh, practical way of providing water cooling systems or forced circulation systems, also we call it as forced or pump cooling systems, we call it as. Earlier case, pump was not included in the water cooling circulation. So while the water is getting circulated from the water jacket to the radiator, again from the radiator to water jackets, so yes, no pump was used there. So in the case of second kind of water cooling system, that is a forced or pump cooling system, a separate pump also must be introduced. So enhancing the what is that? Faster momentum for the water circulation. Enhancing the faster momentum for water circulation. You see here, there is a separate pump also is provided. So here, when pump is also on, so this is, the pump is also on. So when pump to be driven, the power is also consumed from the engine only. The pump also is consuming. Pump to be driven, so the power required also will be taken from the uh, engine power only. That is the brake power that was developed from the engine. Some of the power is consumed even in driving of this pump also. When pump is on, so here it will push the water. It will push the water from the bottom of the radiator into this of the engine jackets. It will suck the water from the bottom of the radiator. This is lower tank of the radiator. This is lower tank of the radiator. This is upper tank of the radiator. So this is upper tank of the radiator, and this is what is lower tank of the radiator. From the lower tank of the radiator, so here, yeah, this is at low level. The radiator in this case is at low level. Then from low level, automatically water cannot be supplied to the high level. Therefore, a separate pump must be connected. Pump to be driven, so the power required also will be consumed from the power that has developed from the burning of the fuel. So therefore, so out of the total power that is developed as a brake power, out of this brake power also some power is taken, and that is used to drive the fan as well as a pump also. Out of the total brake power developed by the engine, part of that power is also consumed in driving of the, what is that, cooling fan as well as, so this circulating pump also. Circulating pump. When pump is on, it will suck the water from the lower tank of the radiator and will push towards the water jackets. Upon receiving the heat from the cylindrical surfaces, this will be converted to hot water. Hot water, by increasing the temperature increases, and consequently the density will decrease. So the water is taken to the top of the upper tank of the radiator. Again from the upper tank of the radiator, then so it is allowed to flow downward due to gravity effects. Again is collected, and here across these of the radiator tubes, air is blown with the help of this of the fan, so that the air will take away the heat from these of the, so radiator tubes. Cold water is collected at the bottom of the radiator. Again, the cold water is now readily available for circulation in the next cycle of operation. This is how the working principle is uh, happening here. The same thing I have explained here also. You can see this. See, working principle. The water is circulated through jackets. The water is circulated through jackets around the cylinder parts and is kept in motion by a centrifugal pump. The water is circulated with the help of a separate centrifugal pump. So the pump is going to be driven from the power consumed by the engine. Then water is passed through the radiator. After receiving the heat from the cylindrical surfaces, hot water is generated, that is passed to the radiator, where it is cooled by the air. so drawn through this of the radiator by a fan. So here while flowing from the top of the radiator to bottom of the radiator, across the radiator air is blown. Across the radiator, you see here the air is blown, air is blown across this of the radiator. This will suck the air onto this of the radiator tubes. Therefore, the air entering onto this of the radiator tubes will take away the heat by the time the water is collected at the bottom. So low temperature water is available again in the next cycle. So when pump is on, so since pump is continuously kept in on, it will continuously suck the water from the bottom of the radiator and will push towards the water jackets. And upon receiving the heat, this will convert to hot water, decreasing the density. Low density water will naturally rise up. So here also one more thing is provided. This is thermostat, we call it as thermostat. What is the use of this thermostat? Not all the times water will be allowed to enter into this of the radiator. Suppose from initially when the engine is on, no higher temperatures are available for cooling water. No higher temperatures are available. So when temperature of water is lesser at the beginning of the engine operation, when cold water temperature is lower, no need of getting no need of circulating into the radiator. See here, low temperature water will not go on its own into this of the radiator. When temperature is lesser for water, at the beginning of the engine operation, then need not supply the water into this of the radiator. Instead, what do we do? There is a thermostat provided. So the function of the thermostat is, so when to be allowed to enter into the, this will decide when to be allowed to enter into the radiator, when not to be allowed into the radiator. When not to be allowed into the radiator or when to be allowed to enter into the radiator, that will be decided by the thermostat fitted in the pipeline connected from the engine jacket to radiator. So the thermostat is provided in the flow line connecting the water jacket as well as the radiator. So the thermostat is fitted that will be set with a temperature of roughly 55 degrees centigrade or 55 degrees centigrade. Once the 55 degrees centigrade is attained for water, so whatever water is circulated here, so once the temperature is raised 55 degrees centigrade and above only, it will sense the temperature by this of the thermostat, then it will allow the water to enter into the radiator. If the temperature is less than 55 degrees centigrade, it won't allow the thermostat won't allow the water to enter into the radiator. So therefore, then what it will do? It will activate the bypass valve. So therefore, again, whatever water has entered here, again flows back into the water jacket, and in the next cycle, one more time by receiving the heat, the temperature will cross the 55 degrees centigrade. Once 55 degrees centigrade is attained, then thermostat again will check the temperature. When the temperature is found to be more than 55 degrees centigrade, then it will allow to enter into this of the radiator. When water temperature is less than 55 degrees centigrade, it won't allow to enter into the radiator. When radiator water is not allowed means no question of cooling also, no question of driving the fan also. When water is allowed only into the radiator, so the radiator water temperature has to be decreased by circulating the air across these of the radiator tubes. So this is what is pump circulation system or forced circulation system. So the second type of water cooling system, forced or pump cooling systems. That is nothing but, so with the help of a separate pump, this is what is the pump and this is the fan, both are mounted on the same common shaft. So the power is supplied to this of the common shaft by connecting the shaft through a pulley to the crankshaft and this pulley shaft are connected through a pulley belt, connected to a belt. So when power is supplied to the pulley means fan as well as the pump also simultaneously made to be operated. So the job of the pump is to suck the water from the bottom of the radiator. The job of the fan is to suck the air across of the radiator. Therefore, it will take away the heat. And here the water will be pumped into this of the water jackets. Therefore, water temperature by increasing, so the density will decrease. Naturally, they rise up. So there is also in the passage of the water flow, there is also a thermostat provided. So this continuously checks whether the water temperature is above 55 degrees centigrade or not. When the water temperature flowing into the radiator is less than 55, the water will not be permitted to enter into the radiator tubes. Instead, that will make the bypass valve to open. Then again it will flows back into the water jacket. Again one more time by receiving the heat, the temperature will increase. Then again the thermostat will check the temperature. If this is more than 55 only, it will allow to enter into the radiator. Less than 55 means again flows back via this of the bypass valve and to enter into this of the water jacket. Till we get the above 55 degrees centigrade temperature, water won't be permitted to enter into the radiator. So this is what is periodically. So the sediments to be cleaned off. There is a drain tap also provided. So this is chemically the tubes will be cleaned off. So and they will be free from sediments that are collected. So for removal of sediments collected, a drain tap is also provided. Sometimes the overflow of water is taken place. So when larger quantity of mass flow rates are allowed, then the quantity that can be allowed to enter into this of the radiator, larger quantities, excess quantity of water will be made to flow over this of the overflow pipe. That is how the working principle of forced pump system or pump circulation system is working. This is what is pump cooling system or forced circulation system is working. Hope you have understood. I will share this material to you. You can go through. Hope you have understood. Uh, Tomorrow's class we will continue the rest of the systems also. Thank you. I am closing.